Hello, good afternoon. Daphne Desjarlais, clinical hypnotherapist. I would like to talk to you today about something that a lot of you are asking me questions about, and a lot of people have known my story and have told me that I should share it to help other people. Like a lot of you, I went through teenage years with both a daughter and a son, and for those years between grade 9, which in Canada is about 14 years old, to graduation, 18 years old, we went through basically a living hell. And I have asked my son permission to share this story in an effort to help other parents and other families hopefully lessen or not go through this at all with their children. So, what it is like many of you, I discovered my son was doing drugs with several of his friends and getting into trouble. And they were doing everything to hide it. There was eye drops, there was prescription pills. I don't even do prescription pills, so they were getting it from somewhere, buying it on the street or whatever. But, anyways, I discovered that him and some very close friends of his that I had known since kindergarten um, were getting into this when they're in grade 9. And this is very common given that age group. They are stretching their wings, they're trying to be adults, they're still children in our eyes, but they want to be considered to be adults. So I found out that they were doing this, and what I did is gathered the parents of the other children, because there's 5 or 6 of them at the time, and I gathered the other parents and we had a parent meeting. Now, not to say that the kids weren't wise to this, because us parents didn't always socialize together. We weren't a close group or anything, just our children hung out together. But we knew of each other through schools and school activities and whatnot. And I was closer to some than others. So we met at a restaurant and we had a strategy meeting. And most of the mothers were on board and didn't have a problem with me telling them what their sons were up to. Some of the fathers had a hard time believing it, but there was enough evidence on the phone the cell phone, that they couldn't deny that their sons were involved. So instead of fighting it, instead of arguing, one person being bad, one person not, we decided to work together. And we decided on an intervention. And we got together, and the kids were required to come. We went to one of the parents' houses. And the first thing we did when all the kids there, they seemed to know that they were busted. We told them we loved them. And I want to point out that this is not anything to do, if you're thinking, oh, it's this family or this family. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with economic status. It is nothing to do with whether you're married or not married, whether you're divorced, whether you're a single parent, whether you're transgender, anything at all. Your nationality, church, or religious affiliation has nothing to do with it. This has to do with children going through puberty and stretching their wings into adulthood, and sometimes they get sidetracked and they get led on by people that we hope they never meet, but sometimes they do. And drug dealers and whatnot that are driving around in fancy cars and telling them, hey, you can make a lot of money doing this and you can experiment with this. Sometimes that's very attractive to young kids. So, anyways, back to our intervention. All the parents got together and we sat the kids down there and we said, first off, we know what you're doing, so there's no bullshit here. And the other thing is, we all love you. We're parents, we love you, we want the best for you. And that kind of broke down most of the barriers, just saying that. just knowing that they're in a safe place, that we weren't just going to berate them and give them hell and ground them and do all the kinds of things that they had been subjected to as children anytime they got in trouble. This was a serious meeting with parents helping the children, and the children realizing that their parents were on their side and knew that they were in deep. So, anyways, we discussed what was going to happen. We discussed things that they had lost. One of the children used to play guitar and was a straight A student. He expressed to us that he was very sad that he had lost that. His marks had gone down. He wasn't playing musical instruments anymore. A lot of them were very upset that they had hurt us. And what came out, which was really, really interesting, was the kids felt relief. I found out the next day, after talking to my son and talking to one of the young men that were there, that he had said to my son the next day that, I didn't like that your mom did this. But I'm glad she did. Because now he felt safe. He felt like he could talk to his parents. He felt like he could talk to the community. He felt like he had community. And he felt in a situation prior that he had no out. He was going down a tunnel that he was not mature enough to handle. And in his case, he was glad that this happened because he had an out. He could save face. Oh, I got caught. Can't do it anymore. Thank you very much. I think I'm going to go home. And you know what? Out of the 5 kids, most of them made it. One did not, unfortunately, and ended up in rehab and unfortunately into his 19th year, he did overdose. And that is the sad reality of it, is you can try and try your best, and that's all you can do. And you can't blame yourself. You can't. Sometimes it's just, unfortunately, very, very sad. And all you can do is the best you can do and continue to love your children. Now, the thing I wanted to go with this is that through my work in corrections, both with young offenders, female offenders, max offenders as a parole officer and as a correctional officer 2, level 2, primary worker, and now as a clinical hypnotherapist, coming out of this, trying to make sure I don't have too many more clients, although that seems to happen, is I want to point out, and this is very, very important, and I totally believe this, and it works with talking to the offenders when I'm dealing with them, is you think of the human needs, and the human needs have to be met or they go sideways, okay? And when you're talking to, and I've talked to Bloods and Crips and Terror Squad and other gang members and stuff, and there's a reason they have the word respect tattooed on their bodies, is that is a fundamental human need. So there's basically 9 of them that I'm going to list off for you right now. One is to give and receive attention. That's a human need. And we're talking beyond food, shelter, that kind of thing. We're talking about in here, what makes you human, what makes you want to do this or do that, making this choice or making that choice. So to give and receive attention is one of them. They have mind and body physical needs. Obviously, food, shelter, water, sex, basic needs. They need a sense of safety and security. And I want to tell you, the meeting that I had with the parents, taking the weight off those children, and I say children, but they are going towards being young adults, is they want to feel safe and secure. And sometimes they've gotten themselves into a position where they don't know how to do that. And that's when you can still be parents, but you have to realize that they want to still have respect. All right? So we gave them safety. We said, we love you. We don't love the behavior that you're doing, but we love you. And we're going to stick by you. So whatever you need help from us, we are going to provide to you. And we expect some things from you as well. So that's a safety and security. That's a human need. A sense of community, making a contribution. These children talked about formerly having good grades, making a contribution, being involved in things, feeling that they mattered, feeling that the music they made mattered. For girls, whatever they're doing, designing things, making a contribution, making sure that you feel that you're doing something in your community, even though you don't at that age maybe use that terminology. But it's still the same thing. It's a community and making a contribution. They need a challenge and creativity. Sometimes these kids are bored. They need to have a challenge, and it's not necessarily the challenge that you would like to have for them. You need to talk to them. Ask them, what do they want? What do they want to be challenged with? What are their interests? Get to know your kid as an adult. Get to know, not necessarily as an adult, but as a human being with interests that may differ from yours. They may have completely different philosophy on life. They obviously, a lot of their history comes from you, and a lot of their likes and dislikes, what they like to eat, what they like to, probably not what they like to wear, because that always seems to be a generational change. But they want a challenge and creativity, however that is. And sometimes when they're so bored, they'll find some other means of finding it. And this is the means that we don't want them to find. We want to give them enough autonomy and creativity and support for what they want to do. Because most kids do not want to not have the approval of the parents. That is a fundamental thing. And I found that out working with young offenders. When I started off my career right out of Simon Fraser University, I went to work with young offenders. And it seems to be a fundamental thing that the children, no matter what, they want to please their parents. And I've worked with some horrendous parents, let me tell you. And the children still look for approval. They still look for something that makes their life worthwhile, that makes living worthwhile, even though they're just starting out. We have to remember that. They have a need for intimacy. Human beings have a need for intimacy. They want to be able to talk to somebody. And I'm not talking intimacy always in the sense of sexual intimacy, but they want to be able to talk to somebody, to trust somebody. And sometimes that comes from their friends when they're not getting it within their family. And sometimes even from their friends, even when they are getting it from their family. And that's great if they have good friends. But if their intimacy is coming because they're not getting it anywhere else, and they're looking to gangs, and they're looking for drugs, or the kids that are doing drugs, they may be just doing what they're doing so they can have their close friends around. Their close friends are smoking a joint. Their close friends are doing Oxycontin. So they want to belong. They want a sense of intimacy. So we have to provide that by being understanding, by having a listen. We have to stop directing them as if they're 5 years old and start talking to them like they're 15 years old. It's hard to explain this, but when you're listening, you need to shut up. You need to listen to your child. You have to say what's going on in your life. I'd like to hear you. And then zip it. Let them talk. Let them tell you what's going on in their life. Sometimes that's just silence. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it may take a while. If you've had a relationship that involved you making all the decisions and spending too much time on whether their room's cleaned or their hair's cut, and you haven't listened to what they're trying to say, it may take a little bit of time, but it's worth the time. Take the time. Listen to your child. Learn to put your thoughts and your orders and your expectations of them, put it aside. You'll get what you want when that child is fulfilled with what they need. Okay? They need a sense of control. Once they start puberty type years, 14 to adulthood, and even some into adulthood, they need to have a sense of control. And they need to have a sense of control from themselves. They need to control their own lives within boundaries. Yes, that's the statement that a lot of the parents are making, is the children are not following boundaries in the house. They're not following the house rules. Well, you might want to take a look at what those house rules are. All right? If the child needs a sense of control, then maybe they need a sense of control over starting with their room. Maybe have autonomy on what that room's going to look like. Maybe offer for them to choose maybe a paint color. Let them decorate. Let them have a sense of it and be supportive. Saying, yeah, that's great. What have you done on your computer? Let's see. Maybe they've done some incredible things. Maybe some of these guys are gamers. Maybe they've created something. Maybe they put something together that they haven't even shown you yet. Because it's never all bad. It's never like all they're going to do is do everything to piss you off. That's not what they're doing. There's a genetic code that will always allow you, if you open up to them, it will allow you to connect with them because genetically they want to. All right? They need a sense of status. All right? They need to know that they matter, that they're important, that they have a place in the family. They're not, when they're 15 or 16 years old, in the same place as a 3 or 4-year-old. All right, you have to give them that sense of status. You have to treat them like the young adults they are. Yes, they're not fully grown adults and they may be acting up, but I've also found with a lot of kids that would be described as very rude and belligerent and everything else, that if I say, hey, I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to show you some respect and you need to show that back to me. And that's it. I don't dwell on that. Now, once they've settled down and sort of thought about that a little bit, and it doesn't take more than a couple of seconds, then they start opening up to me. I'm not judging them. I'm just setting the boundaries. All right? And I'm giving them a set of status. When I talk to the inmates, I never just use their last name. It's always Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones, how are you today? I find out about their families. I find out about their children. Human beings are more than just a two-faceted kind of thing, a black and white kind of thing. And everybody wants to know that you care about them. So when you're talking to your children, ask them about them. Ask them not just to give you a resume type rundown of what they did in school today, or if they even showed up in school today. Ask them how their friend Tommy's doing. Ask them, what around the neighborhood they noticed. If they've, anything at all that in the neighborhood that they may be interested in. Did they go out to the cross country bike track today? Was there anybody out there? Did they see, such and such a girlfriend. If you know the names of any of their kids, ask them about them. Direct the attention away from them, but still be interested in their life. How is Mary doing? You know, maybe a girlfriend got pregnant or something like that. How is the baby doing? Don't be judgmental. Ask about it. Ask like you care, not just that you're trying to find something wrong with them. Give them a sense of status. Give them a sense that they're telling you something that's important in their life. And they will listen and they will appreciate your openness, and that'll improve the relationship. It's not a quick pill. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It takes time. And the last one, the 9th one, is a sense of meaning, purpose, and goals. Everybody needs a sense of meaning in their life. They need to know that they matter, that they're here for a reason. So ask them if they're feeling that there's no meaning, if they're sad, if they're going through a lot of trauma for school, friends, whatever. Try and direct the conversation, not dictate the conversation, but direct the conversation into what they find meaningful. And also remind them there's always tomorrow. There's next week. They're still young. They may not know even the kids that they went to high school with. They'll have a whole new group of friends, and there's always tomorrow. So with whatever's not perfect today, just wait till tomorrow. Have a rest, and maybe we'll have another conversation tomorrow. We'll talk about your goals tomorrow. Maybe we can do something to change things that are not right with you. But I'll wait and I'll let you tell me what's not right with you. And I'll be here to listen. Anyways, I want you to know my son is alive and well and in his mid-20s now. And most of his friends are as well. One went to university, went down to South America to help his parents with the resort that they were building there. And the others are doing jobs and whatever their life is entails, but they made it through. So I hope yours do too. If you'd like to talk about this or would like any input or want to meet, whatever, there is the button on the top of the banner there on my Facebook page. Feel free, and be blessed and be healthy. Cheers.